My name is James Hunt. I'm 53 years old, and I died for 11 minutes. What Jesus showed me during those 11 minutes changed everything I thought I knew about life, about God, about why any of us are even here. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a theologian. I'm a pipe fitter from Knoxville, Tennessee, who coached Little League on Saturdays and ate too much red meat and thought he had plenty of time left to figure things out. I was wrong about that last part. And I want to tell you what happened as plainly and as honestly as I know how, because I believe with everything in me that I came back for a reason, and that reason is standing in this room right now. It was a Tuesday, February 11th. I remember that because my daughter had texted me that morning to tell me she got into graduate school. And when I told her I was going to take her out to celebrate that weekend never came the way I planned it. I was at work. We were finishing a job on a commercial building downtown. Nothing unusual, nothing I hadn't done 1,000 times before. I felt a tightness in my chest around 10 in the morning. I told myself it was the cold air. I told myself I'd pulled something lifting the day before. I told myself a lot of things that weren't true, because that is what men like me do. We negotiate with our bodies instead of listening to them. By 10:47, I was on the ground. My coworker Danny found me. He started CPR. The paramedics came. They worked on me in the field for several minutes before they got a pulse, and then they lost it again in the ambulance. The doctors later told my wife, Carol, that by the time they got me stabilized in the hospital, I had been clinically dead for approximately 11 minutes. 11 minutes. I want to be careful here, because I'm not a man who exaggerates. I was raised to say what I mean and mean what I say, and what I'm about to tell you is exactly what I experienced. I'm not telling you what I read in a book. I'm not telling you what somebody told me. I'm telling you what I saw, what I heard, and what was spoken into me during those 11 minutes as clearly as I'm speaking to you right now. There was no tunnel the way people describe it. Not for me. What I experienced was more like the world I knew fell away, like a stage set being pulled down from behind me. And I was standing somewhere that had no walls, no ceiling, no floor, but didn't feel empty. It felt full. I'm more full than anything I'd ever been inside of. Full of light that wasn't blinding, full of warmth that wasn't temperature, full of a quiet that wasn't silence. It was the most alive I had ever felt, which is a strange thing to say about dying, but that's the truth of it. And then he was there. I'm not going to stand here and give you a physical description that turns this into something sensational. What I will tell you is that I knew exactly who he was the moment he was present. Not because someone introduced him, not because he looked the way paintings make him look, but because there is something about the presence of Jesus Christ that your spirit recognizes the way your lungs recognize air. You don't have to think about it. You just know. And every part of me that had ever doubted, every part of me that had ever wondered in those dark 2 a.m. moments whether any of this was real, all of it collapsed. Not painfully, not with shame. It just fell away because the reality of him made doubt impossible. You can't doubt the sun when you're standing in it. He didn't speak to me the way we speak to each other. It wasn't audible in the way this microphone carries my voice to your ears. It was more like understanding was placed inside me. Complete thoughts, fully formed, delivered not to my mind but to the deepest place in me. And the first thing that was communicated was simply this: you are loved. You have always been loved. Nothing you have done or left undone has ever changed that. I want to stop on that for a moment because I think some of you in this room need to hear it the way I needed to hear it. And I grew up with a father who was not unkind, but who was not generous with affirmation. I spent a lot of my life performing, working hard, providing, fixing things, being the capable one, not entirely out of virtue, but out of a need to justify my place, a need to earn what I had. And in that moment, in that presence, I understood something that I had never truly absorbed before. I had never needed to earn it, not one day of my life. The love was not the reward for getting it right. The love was the foundation everything else was built on. But then, and this is the part that I have spent every day since trying to find words for, he began to show me something. And what he showed me was the answer to a question I had always thought was too big to answer. Not, is there a God? Not, is there an afterlife? Those were answered the moment I arrived. What he showed me was the answer to the oldest question: why? Why did he make us? Why did he make us in his image and likeness? Because that phrase is in the book, right there in Genesis, in the very first chapter, in the very first telling of who we are. Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. I had heard that 100 times, read it myself, but I had never understood what it meant. I thought it meant we look like him somehow. I thought it was about physical form, or about intellect, or about dominion over the earth. I thought it was a statement of rank. What he showed me was that it is a statement of relationship. When he created us in his image, he wasn't making a copy. He was making a family member. What he was making something that could carry his nature. Not just observe it, not just benefit from it, but carry it. Love, creativity, compassion, the ability to see someone else and choose to put them before yourself. These are not human inventions. These are reflections. These are the image. Every time a mother sits up all night with a sick child, not because anyone is watching, not because there is any reward, but because love simply moves her, that is the image of God being expressed through a human being. Every time someone chooses forgiveness when resentment would be easier, every time someone builds something beautiful, writes something true, or holds someone who is falling apart, that is not just human behavior. That is the image showing itself. And he showed me why that matters. Hona, he showed me that he is, and I'm going to struggle to put this into words that fit inside a human language. He is a being whose essential nature is love, not a being who feels love, not a being who decides to love. Love is what he is. The way water is wet, not because of something that happens to it, but because of what it is at its most fundamental level. And love by its nature cannot exist in isolation. Love requires relationship. Love requires someone to love. And so creation, all of it, the stars, the seas, the mountains, every living thing, and at the center of it, us. Creation was not God's project. It was God's joy. It was God extending the nature of who he is outward, making room for others to exist inside of what he already was. He made us in his image because he wanted us to be able to receive love, not as recipients, but as participants. He wanted us to know him the way you know someone you are genuinely in relationship with. Not the way you know a fact, not the way you know a law, but the way you know a person whose presence makes you more yourself. And then he showed me the grief. This is the part that broke me, and I mean that literally. I wept in a way I have not wept since I was a small boy, because what he allowed me to feel was a fraction, I believe truly just a fraction, because a human heart cannot hold the fullness of it, a fraction of what it costs him when we don't know this. When we go through our entire lives performing, striving, hiding, resenting, numbing, and grinding, not because we are evil, but because we are lost, because nobody told us, because we forgot, because the world is loud and this truth is quiet, and we chose the noise. He is not angry at the lost. He grieves for the lost. The way a father stands at a window watching for a child who doesn't know how to find their way home. That parable of the prodigal son, I always read it as a story about forgiveness. Standing there, I understood it is a story about longing. The father in that story is not waiting to forgive. He is waiting to embrace. The forgiveness is just what happens when the embrace finally comes. He showed me that every person alive, every single one, no exceptions, no asterisks, carries this image. It doesn't matter what they've done. It doesn't matter what's been done to them. The image doesn't get destroyed by sin. It gets buried. It gets distorted. It gets so covered in the weight of shame and loss and bad theology and hard living that sometimes the person themselves can't find it anymore. But it is there. He made sure I understood that. It is always still there. And he showed me what it looks like when it gets uncovered. He showed me, and I don't have language for this that doesn't sound small. He showed me moments, flashes, a woman in a hospital somewhere comforting a stranger, a teenage boy choosing not to do what his friends were pressuring him to do, A man kneeling beside his bed at the end of a day, not with fancy words, just with honesty, just saying, I don't know what I'm doing, but I believe you're there. And each of those moments, he showed me how he sees them. He showed me that they are not small. In the economy of eternity, they are enormous. Why they are the image of God made visible in a broken world, and they matter to him in a way that I cannot convey to you without all of us weeping for the next hour. And then he told me I was going back. That is not what I wanted. And I want to be honest with you about that too, because I think sometimes testimonies like this make it sound like we graciously agreed to return for the greater good. I did not want to go back. What I had found in that place, the peace, the fullness, the complete and total absence of fear, I would have stayed. Every cell of who I was wanted to stay. He told me it was not my time. And he told me, not in a grandiose way, not with a sense of great mission, but gently, the way you tell a child something important. He told me that people needed to hear what I had been shown, not about dying, and not about the afterlife, though that is real and it is more than we imagined. He told me that people needed to hear the reason, the why, because we are walking around, billions of us, on this spinning rock, wondering if we matter, wondering if we are loved, wondering if our lives have any meaning beyond the utility they produce. And the answer has been in the first chapter of the first book the whole time. You were made in his image. That's not a theological category. That's not a doctrine point. That's your identity. That is what you are at your core before anyone told you otherwise, before life added its scar tissue, before religion made it complicated, before performance became your language. You are made in the image of a God whose entire being is love, and you were made so that love would have a face in this world and hands, glory and a voice, in presence. That is why he made you. Not to be useful, not to be successful, not to be impressive or productive or well-behaved. He made you to be known by him and to carry the family resemblance outward into the world around you and to love other people the way he has loved you, which is without condition and without limit and without ever, not once, giving up. I came back to my body on a table in a hospital with Carol crying over me and a doctor saying things I couldn't understand yet. And the first thing I felt was the absence of that fullness, like being moved from a warm room into a cold hallway. And I want to be truthful. Some of that absence is still with me. Some of that homesickness lives in my chest every day. But alongside it lives something that didn't live there before. And that is a certainty so solid you could build a cathedral on it, that none of this is meaningless, that not one of the people in my life is an accident, that every moment I have left is an opportunity to reflect the image that he put in me before the world ever touched me. I'm not the same man who left for work on February 11th. That man was good enough, I think, but he was sleepwalking. He was getting through. He was managing. He loved his family, but often loved his worry more. He believed in God, but treated that belief like a spare tire. Good to know it was there, but not something he thought about on a clear day. I have not had a single clear day since. Every day is charged now. Every conversation matters. Every face I look into has the image of God buried somewhere inside it, and I look differently now. I look for it. I look for the places it's trying to come through. I look for the person underneath the performance, underneath the damage, underneath whatever they're using to survive. Because he looked for it in me, and he found it, and he thought it was worth coming back for. 11 minutes. That's all it took to rearrange everything I thought I knew about what I was here for. I am James Hunt. I am 53 years old. I am a pipe fitter. I am a husband and a father, and a man who still eats too much red meat, though Carol has opinions about that. I am imperfect in ways that are too numerous and too familiar to list. And I am deeply, permanently, irreversibly convinced that you, every one of you, exactly as you are today, not the version of you that you're planning to become once you get things together. You are loved by the God who made you, all in whose image you were made, for the purpose of being the presence of that love in the world. That's the message. That's why I came back. And if you leave here today without being sure of it for yourself, I hope you'll find me after, because I've got time, and I've got a story, and apparently God decided 11 minutes was long enough to make sure I'd keep telling it for the rest of my life. Thank you.